Volvo XC60 appeared swiftly. They just showed his concept in 2007, when only 6 months later a serial model was released, which remained practically unchanged until last year's restyling. And, in fact, no changes were required. The crossover turned out to be both okay and successful from a technical point of view. This, by the way, is not surprising, since he shares the platform and a number of units with bestsellers in their fields, Land Rover Freelander 2 and Ford Mondeo. The platform itself was developed by Ford and, with some upgrades, survived up to the Land Rover Discovery Sport. Yes, our Swede walks in the uncles of the current novelty of the green oval. The paths of the global automotive industry are inscrutable. 3 variants of diesel engines were installed on the Volvo XC60 at different times. The weakest and most economical is the 136 horsepower D3 with a working volume of 1984 cubic centimeters. 2 engines of the same volume of 2.4 liters, but with different power, 181 and 215 horsepower, differ in indices, D4 and D5. At the beginning of the crossover, there was only one diesel engine, 2.4 liters and a capacity of 163 horsepower, with not the best option. By the way, the difference in output between the last 2 motors is easily compensated by chip tuning, about 20,000 rubles. You can also chip D3, but there are an order of magnitude more dissatisfied with the result. They complain about the sharply increased oil waste, up to a liter per 1,000 kilometers, and the frequent inclusion of an indicator that requires a motor service. All diesel engines are extremely critical to the quality of the oil, but with timely and accurate maintenance, they serve 150,000 kilometers without frightening problems. Little things can bring you out of balance. The truth is that the devil is in the details, and when you replace a leaking radiator hose or crankshaft position sensor for the 5th time, this old adage will seem very true. The sensor costs 2,000 rubles. With a replacement, the tube is even smaller, but the floating quality of the components does not compensate for these prices. With gasoline engines, the picture is exactly the same. True, there are 2 of them, 4 and 6 cylinder, designated T5 and T6, equipped with turbines and have a volume of 2.0 and 3.0 liters, respectively. Power, 245 and 304 liters. Width, allow you to feel confident both in the city and on the highway. In contrast, the weakest diesel, according to the owners, does not provide proper elasticity and turns dynamic overtaking into a tickling event. Gasoline in this sense are good, although even the one that is smaller in volume is able to gobble up 16 liters of fuel in the city. Gasoline engines have no special problems, except for the same lottery with components. Unless the smaller one is prone to the formation of carbon deposits on the valves, if not very high-quality oil is poured in, and the quick demise of the particulate filter can be called a common problem. Well, of course, since the motors are equipped with turbines, you need to give them time to cool down or put a turbo timer. In 2010, almost all engines were boosted a little by changing the settings. Volvo's handling can be described in many ways, and radically different. To one it seems that the XC60 is not controlled, does not slow down and does not accelerate. Another will call behavior on the road confident and stable. Swedish crossovers, like no other, require a clear understanding that a car is first and foremost a means of transportation, and a toy and entertainment are 3rd and 5th. We can admit that the sport component in setting up the suspension and steering in the Volvo XC60, of course, more than in the imposing XC90, but it still doesn't pull on a rally car even in dreams. But the chassis of both is extremely reliable, which is a rarity in our time. Usually, crossovers on a passenger platform, and most of them, begin to rumble with the suspension already in the first dozen thousand kilometers. This is where the interior will rumble. After the first 100,000 run, you should pay attention to the rear silent block of the McPherson front suspension and the bushings of the lower arm of the rear multi-link suspension, and also on very cheap stabilizer rubber bands. By the way, I heard about attempts to replace shock absorbers with stiffer ones. More often than not, this only reduces comfort without any noticeable improvement in handling. If we really change, then the brake discs, which after the winter can begin to beat on cars with powerful engines and among fans of a sharp ride. It is not necessary to install Brembo Gold, but it is worth climbing the forums in search of a good option. The Volvo XC60 was equipped with both manual and automatic transmissions. Since the vast majority of automatic transmissions, and you won't even find mechanics on purpose, let's touch on automatic transmission. Actually, there is also nothing special to talk about here. Geartronic automatic machines are a model of reliability. If problems occur with them up to 200,000 kilometers, then this is either the result of sloppy maintenance, inaccurate operation, or just an unsuccessful instance, which, I repeat, happens extremely rarely. The drive can be front or full with the Haldex clutch. The unit is just as reliable, overheating or jamming is unfamiliar to him. When choosing a car, you should pay attention to all-wheel drive versions, since the difference in cross-country ability is radical. In general, off-road Volvo feels very confident. It is not for nothing that his family has such famous rogues as the Land Rover Freelander, even though it is a crossover. However, if the British on rough terrain can be found all the time, then the Swede in the swamp is an extraordinary phenomenon. However, it has 225 millimeters of ground clearance, good approach and departure angles, a well-protected bottom and a competent traction control system. There is a hill descent assistant and a switchable stabilization system. Volvo XC60, however, know that their offspring will not stick in the dirt for nothing, and the car was not equipped with any additional off-road systems. Salon Volvo XC60 bribed more than 1,000 buyers who came to look at him in the store. This is the case when wealth is not vulgar, but cozy and not pretentious. Ergonomics on top, interior materials too. Gorgeous leather and wood trim. Only plastic is lame, which looks good, but is easily scratched. Over time, however, the skin can become covered with wrinkles and even small cracks. If you want to avoid this, use special leather conditioners. In general, the Volvo XC60 is a very high-tech car with a lot of options, quite difficult and expensive to repair. Even a failure of the rear door electric sensor can lighten the owner's wallet by 5,000 rubles. Such failures occur extremely rarely, and I mention them not to scold the crossover, but to warn, try to be serviced by qualified craftsmen. In this case, the miser pays twice. Moreover, the conditions for warranty repairs for the Swedish crossover are such that almost all breakdowns, even the smallest ones, are resolved at the expense of the manufacturer. However, this does not negate the accuracy when choosing a used car.